Commander Alex Miller stared at the blue light floating above his desk. It was an invitation. Not just any invitation, but one from the Galactic Confederation. A group of 17 advanced alien species. They wanted Earth to join their big space race called the Void Sprint. Alex leaned back in his chair and rubbed his tired eyes. Humans had only figured out faster-than-light travel 3 years ago. To these aliens, humans were like babies just learning to walk. The U.S. Pioneer sat in Earth's orbit. It was humanity's first real deep spaceship. Compared to alien vessels, it looked like an old car next to sleek sports models. The aliens had ships that could bend space and jump through dimensions. The Pioneer used fusion engines and artificial gravity systems that aliens had abandoned centuries ago. "Sir, did you see it?" Lieutenant Sammy Ortiz burst into his office without knocking. Her dark eyes were wide with excitement. She was the youngest officer on the command team, always full of energy. "The invitation?" "Yes, I'm looking at it now," Alex replied, pointing to the hologram. Sammy shook her head, her short brown hair bouncing with the movement. "Not just the invitation. The alien news feeds. They're talking about us." She pulled out her tablet and showed Alex. The screen displayed translated alien news reports. The words made Alex frown. Primitive curiosities. Entertaining addition to the prestigious race. Like watching a child attempt adult sports. "They're making fun of us, sir," Sammy said, but she wasn't upset. Instead, she was smiling. "They think we're a joke. They invited us to laugh at our failure." Alex stood up and walked to the window. From here, he could see the curve of Earth below. Beautiful blue and green, home to the newest spacefaring species in the known galaxy. "What do you think, Lieutenant? Should we decline?" Alex asked, though he already knew the answer. "No way, sir." Sammy's voice rose with passion. "We accept and show them what humans can do." Alex turned back to her with a small smile. The Pioneer wasn't built for racing. It's an exploration vessel. We'd be at a serious disadvantage. "That's what they're counting on," Sammy replied. "But they don't know humans very well." Alex picked up his coffee mug, now cold from sitting too long. "Get Chief Engineer Patterson up here. And call Captain Ramirez back from her shore leave." Sammy's eyes lit up. "We're doing this." "We're doing this," Alex confirmed. "The race is in 3 months. That gives us just enough time." Sammy was about to leave when Alex added, "And get me everything we have on the race course. Maps, challenges, environmental hazards. Everything." After Sammy left, Alex sent a formal response accepting the invitation. Within minutes, his screen lit up with incoming messages from Earth's government officials, military leaders, and the media. The next morning, Captain Linda Ramirez stood in the Pioneer's main briefing room. Despite being called back from her vacation, she looked fresh and focused. Around the table sat her command crew: Alex, Sammy, Chief Engineer Greg Patterson, Navigation Officer Kevin Jones, and Communications Officer Judy Wallace. "They expect us to fail," Linda said plainly. "Maybe even hope we'll provide some entertainment when our primitive ship breaks down mid-race. The course is designed to showcase advanced technology," Alex explained, showing the holographic map. "An asteroid field, a neutron star flyby, a radiation-heavy nebula, and then a series of artificial warp gates." Greg Patterson, a stocky man with graying hair, studied the course. "Each section requires technology they think we don't have." "Do we have it?" Kevin asked. Linda and Greg exchanged looks. "No," Linda admitted, "but we have something better." "What's that?" Judy asked. Linda smiled. "Human ingenuity. Greg has some ideas that might surprise our new alien friends." "They've forgotten old solutions in their rush to new technology," Greg explained. "Sometimes the simple way works best." Alex watched his crew as excitement spread across their faces. "If we're going to do this," Linda said, "we go all in. The world will be watching. The galaxy will be watching. To show aliens what humans can do, Sandy raised her water bottle in a toast. Everyone joined in. To humanity's first intergalactic race. Chief Engineer Greg Patterson ran his hand along the outside of the Pioneer. The metal felt warm under his palm. He stood in the massive alien shipyard where all race competitors prepared their vessels. Around him, strange and beautiful alien ships made the Pioneer look like an old tin can. Some alien ships looked like giant crystals that bent light. Others seemed alive, grown instead of built. A few ships even appeared to fade in and out of sight, as if they existed in multiple places at once. "They're calling us the museum piece," said Judy Wallace as she walked up beside him. The communications officer handed Greg a tablet showing translated alien news reports. "The odds against us even finishing the race are 10,000 to 1. They won't even calculate our odds of winning." Greg nodded, watching alien engineers and diplomats walk past. They pointed at the Pioneer and made gestures that looked like laughter. "Perfect," Greg said with a small smile. "Let them underestimate us." Back inside the Pioneer, Captain Linda Ramirez gathered her crew around the main table. She activated a holographic display showing the race course. "The race has 4 parts," Linda explained, pointing to each section. "First, we fly through an asteroid field, then around a neutron star. Next, through a nebula full of radiation. Finally, through a series of artificial warp gates. Each part is designed to show off advanced alien technology," Alex added. "They expect us to drop out during the first part. Or explode," Kevin said with a laugh. Linda smiled and pressed another button. New images appeared showing secret modifications to the Pioneer. "We have something they don't expect." For the next 2 weeks, the human crew worked day and night. Officially, they told the race officials they were making small changes to meet race standards. The truth was very different. The engine room became Greg's workshop. Tools and parts covered every surface. His engineering team followed his unusual instructions without question. The Confederation thinks we're trying to copy their technology, Greg told his team as they worked through another long night. They're watching for signs that we're attempting to build quantum drives or artificial wormhole generators. Maya Phillips nodded as she carefully adjusted what looked like modified kitchen equipment attached to the engine. "So instead, we're going primitive. Really primitive." "Exactly," Greg said with a grin. "We're using old Earth technology they've never bothered to study, combined with a few tricks of our own." Their plan was simple but clever. The alien ships had moved beyond using fuel centuries ago. They thought it was inefficient and crude. The Pioneers' modified engines would use the race environment itself as fuel, collecting hydrogen from the nebula, using gravity to gain speed, and turning radiation into energy. "The aliens think technology only moves forward," Linda said at their final meeting before the race. "They've forgotten old solutions they stopped using long ago. That's our advantage." On the day before the race, alien officials inspected all ships. They barely looked at the Pioneers' engines. To them, human technology was too simple to worry about. That night, Linda gave her crew one final speech. "We look like the underdogs. We look primitive. But tomorrow, we'll show the galaxy what humans can do." Early the next morning, 24 ships lined up at the starting position. 23 beautiful alien vessels of light and advanced technology, and one human ship that looked like a metal arrow among exotic butterflies. In the observation area, important aliens from across the galaxy gathered to watch. Many came specifically to see the human ship fail. Ambassador Carol Wright represented Earth. She stood tall despite the barely hidden mockery from her alien counterparts. "Your species shows admirable courage," said an insect-like alien named Axroltic. "Just participating is honorable." "We're just happy to be included," Carol replied politely. In her earpiece, she could hear the Pioneer crew's final preparations. As the countdown began, Captain Linda spoke to her crew one last time. "Remember our plan. Look competent but struggling in the first part. Don't reveal our modifications until the nebula. And most importantly, let's show these smug aliens what humans can do." The starting signal flashed. The alien vessels shot forward with dazzling displays of exotic technology. The Pioneer's engines roared to life with what appeared to be simple combustion already trailing behind. The first part of the race was the asteroid field. Alien ships showed off their amazing technology. Some made the asteroids disappear. Others created small holes in space to jump through. A few simply went right through solid rock like ghosts. The Pioneer did none of these things. Instead, it moved with careful, planned turns. From the outside, it looked like the human ship was working very hard just to avoid hitting rocks. "They think we're at our limits already," Kevin said from his spot at navigation. He could hear the aliens talking to each other over the race communication channel. "Good," Linda replied from the captain's chair. "How are our collectors doing?" Greg checked his screens with a smile. "Working perfectly. Every asteroid we get close to adds more to our energy stores. We're getting exactly what we need for the next part." The Pioneer finished the asteroid field in 18th place out of 24 ships. 6 ships had already given up with various problems. The aliens were surprised a human ship had made it through it all. "Nicely done," Linda told her crew. "Now for the neutron star." The second part of the race took them close to a neutron star, a super-dense star that spun very fast. It created gravity so strong it could tear ships apart. Alien vessels created fancy shields to protect themselves. The Pioneer had a different plan. Greg had designed special panels on the outside of the ship. As they moved close to the neutron star, these panels opened up. "Gravity collectors at full power," Greg announced. "We're catching the star's pull like a sail catches wind." The alien observers watched in confusion as the human ship took a path much closer to the deadly star than safety allowed. They expected it to be crushed. Instead, the Pioneer used the extreme gravity to slingshot forward at incredible speed. Like a stone in a sling, it whipped around the star and shot ahead, passing 3 more alien ships. "Now we're in 15th place, Kevin said with excitement. "They're starting to worry." Ambassador Carol tried to hide her smile as the aliens around her buzzed with confusion. This was not what they expected from primitive humans. The third part of the race was the nebula, a huge cloud of gas and dust full of dangerous radiation. This was where Greg's special plan would fully work. As they entered the colorful cloud, Linda ordered, "Start the collectors. Full power." The outside of the Pioneer began to glow. From the alien viewing area, it looked like the human ship was being cooked by the radiation. "Your brave crew," an alien said to Carol with fake sadness. "Such a shame." Inside the Pioneer, the situation was very different. The ship's hull was specially designed to absorb radiation and turn it directly into energy. While alien ships wasted power pushing against the radiation, the humans used it as fuel. "Power levels rising," Greg reported. 200%, 300%, 400%. "Engine temperature?" Linda asked. "Hot, but within limits," Maya answered from her engineering station. "The cooling system is working." As they moved deeper into the nebula, the Pioneer stopped, looking like it was struggling. Instead, it started to move faster, passing one alien ship, then another and another. When they emerged from the nebula, the humans had moved from 15th place to 8th. The observation lounge filled with shocked alien voices. "Impossible," said Sarltic, the insect-like alien. "Their technology cannot do this." Carol just smiled. "Perhaps you underestimated us." On the main race communication channel, alien captains demanded answers. How could a primitive human ship survive the nebula and gain speed? Linda ignored their questions. She looked at her crew with pride. "Now for the final part. The warp gates. Greg, are we ready for your special trick?" Greg nodded, his hands moving quickly over his controls. "The Meyer Rodriguez field is charged and ready, Captain. Those warp gates won't know what hit them." "Excellent," Linda said, "Let's make history." The final leg of the race featured 5 artificial warp gates. Each gate required ships to manipulate space and time to pass through. The gates would reconfigure after each ship, becoming more complex. For the advanced alien ships ahead of them, this was a chance to show off their best technology. For the humans, it was time to reveal their biggest surprise. The final part of the race was the most difficult. 5 warp gates floated in space ahead. Each gate was a giant ring made of strange alien metal that glowed with blue light. To pass through, ships needed special technology to bend space and time. The aliens ahead of the Pioneer had the best ships in the galaxy. In first place was the Axiom, a crystal ship that sparkled like diamonds. Behind it flew the Nebulous, a ship that seemed partly invisible. The third-place ship, Concept of Light, glowed with inner fire. In fourth was the Synapse, a ship that looked alive. The Pioneer was now in 5th place. The human ship looked plain and simple next to the alien vessels. "They're watching us closely now," Judy said, monitoring the alien communications. "They can't figure out how we made it this far." Linda smiled. "Then let's really confuse them. Greg, is the Meyer Rodriguez field ready?" Greg nodded, his fingers moving over his control panel. "Charged and ready to activate, Captain." "What exactly does this thing do?" Kevin asked. He was still new to the engineer's secret project. "Instead of trying to manipulate space like the aliens do," Greg explained, "we create a bubble of simplified physics around our ship. It makes the complex calculations of the gates temporarily easy to pass through. It's like bringing scissors to a math test," Maya added with a smile. "They're solving hard equations, and we're just cutting through them." The first alien ship, the Axiom, approached the first gate. It slowed down, gathering energy. Then it released a burst of light that bent the gate's blue glow. The Axiom slipped through smoothly. The gate changed shape behind it, becoming more complex. One by one, the 3 other alien ships ahead passed through, each one using their advanced technology to solve the increasingly difficult gate. Now it was the Pioneer's turn. "Activate the Meyer Rodriguez field," Linda ordered. Greg pressed a big red button. The Pioneer shuddered. A faint bubble of distorted air appeared around the ship. "It's working," Greg shouted. "Field is stable." The aliens watching from the observation area gasped as the supposedly primitive human ship accelerated toward the first gate. The Pioneer wasn't slowing down to solve the gate's complex pattern. It was speeding up. The human ship hit the first gate at full speed. For a moment, the blue light of the gate turned bright white. Then the Pioneer shot through. "First gate cleared," Kevin announced. No damage to the ship. The aliens couldn't believe what they were seeing. The Pioneer was breaking the rules of physics as they understood them. "On to Gate 2, Linda said calmly. "How's our speed?" "All that energy we collected is giving us maximum thrust," Greg reported. "We're faster than we've ever been." The Pioneer raced toward the second gate. This time, the aliens were paying full attention. How could humans do this? The answer was brilliantly simple. The Meyer Rodriguez field didn't try to solve the gate's complex physics. Instead, it created a small area around the ship where physics became simple again. Within that bubble, the Pioneer could ignore the gate's tricks. After the third gate, the Pioneer had caught up to the 4th-place ship, the living vessel called Synapse. "They're trying to block us," Kevin warned, as the alien ship moved to cut off their path. "Maintain course," Linda ordered. "Our field affects them more than they affect us." As the 2 ships neared the 4th gate, the Pioneer's field extended slightly. The alien ship's controls suddenly became confused by the simplified physics. The Synapse wavered off course while the Pioneer shot through the gate. "4th place is ours," Sammy cheered. By the 5th gate, even the race officials were in an uproar. They checked their rules frantically. There was nothing that said a ship couldn't use a field like this. They had never imagined any species would try something so basic. The third-place ship is just ahead, Kevin reported. The concept of light is slowing down. I think their fancy drive is overheating. Perfect timing, Linda said. All power to engines. Let's pass them before the finish line. The Pioneer surged forward, its engines glowing bright with all the energy they had collected throughout the race. The bubble of simplified physics cut through space like a knife, letting the human ship ignore the complex problems that slowed the alien vessels. As they passed the concept of light, the alien captain's shocked face appeared on their communication screen. "How?" the alien asked simply. Linda just smiled and waved as the Pioneer shot past, now in third place with the finish line coming into view. "Think we can catch the others?" she asked her crew. "Watch us," Greg replied with confidence. The race was now in its final stretch. The Pioneer had moved from fifth place to third, passing two alien ships that had never imagined being beaten by humans. Ahead were only the Nebulous and the Axiom. In the observation area, the alien spectators were no longer laughing. Ambassador Carroll stood tall as worried whispers spread through the crowd. "How is this possible?" An alien diplomat asked her directly. "Your ship has no advanced technology we can detect." Carroll smiled politely. "Perhaps there's more than one way to solve a problem." Back on the Pioneer, Linda and her crew focused on their next target. The Nebulous, in second place, was just ahead of them. "Status report," Linda ordered. "Meyer Rodriguez field is stable," Greg reported, "but it's using a lot of power. We have about 10 minutes before we need to shut it down." "The finish line is 8 minutes away at current speed," Kevin said from navigation. "We can make it." "What about the Nebulous?" Linda asked. "Can we catch them?" Kevin studied his screens. "Their quantum drive is more efficient in this part of space. We're gaining, but slowly." Linda thought for a moment. "Judy, open a channel to the Nebulous." The aliens on the Nebulous were surprised to receive a communication from the human ship. Their captain, a cloud-like being with glowing spots, appeared on screen. "Greetings, human vessel," the alien captain said. "Your performance is unexpected. Why do you contact us during the race?" Linda smiled. "Just wanted to let you know that our simplified physics field has an interesting side effect. It disrupts quantum uncertainty in a 3-kilometer radius." The alien captain's glowing spots flickered with alarm. The Nebulous relied on quantum uncertainty for its drive to work properly. "This is a bluff," the alien said, but its voice wavered. "Maybe," Linda replied. "But if I were you, I'd move a little further to your right, just in case." The channel closed. Moments later, the Nebulous shifted course slightly to the right, exactly as Linda had hoped. "They took the bait," Sammy said with a grin. "That opens up the racing line for us." "Full power to engines," Linda ordered. "Let's thread that needle." The Pioneer surged forward, taking the optimal path that the Nebulous had abandoned. The human ship's bubble of simplified physics cut through space cleanly, gaining precious seconds. "It's working," Kevin announced. "We're gaining fast." In the observation area, the aliens watched in shock as the primitive human vessel closed in on the second-place ship. Some started checking the race rules, looking for violations. Others demanded testing for illegal technology. Ambassador Carroll maintained her diplomatic smile, though inside she felt like cheering. On the Pioneer, Greg watched his power readings with concern. "Field strength is dropping, Captain. We've got maybe 4 minutes left." "The finish line is 5 minutes away at current speed," Kevin reported. "We're cutting it close." Linda nodded. "Divert power from life support if needed. We can breathe thin air for a few minutes." The crew worked quickly, shifting power from non-essential systems to maintain the field. The air grew slightly cooler as they reduced heating. Lights dimmed throughout the ship. "We're alongside the Nebulous," Kevin reported with excitement. Moving into second place. The alien ship tried to block them, but the Pioneer's field made their advanced maneuvers less effective. With a final burst of speed, the human ship pulled ahead. "Second place is ours," Sammy cheered. Only the Axiom is ahead now. The crystalline ship in first place was still a good distance ahead. The Axiom was the pride of the most advanced civilization in the Confederation. Its technology was centuries beyond Earth's. Can we catch them? Linda asked. Kevin shook his head. Not at current speed. They're too far ahead. Greg looked up from his engineering panel with a thoughtful expression. Unless what? Linda asked. We could drop the field and redirect all that power to the engines, Greg suggested. One final sprint. Without the field, we'd have to navigate normally, Kevin warned. That's risky at these speeds. Linda considered their options. How much faster would we be? About 30%, Greg estimated. Maybe enough to catch the Axiom right at the finish line. The crew looked to their captain. This was the moment that would decide everything. Stay safe in second place, still an amazing achievement, or risk everything for first. Linda didn't hesitate. Drop the field. Give me everything we've got. Greg pressed the big red button again. The bubble around the Pioneer disappeared. Alarms sounded as the ship suddenly had to deal with normal space physics again. All power to engines. Greg shouted over the noise. The Pioneer leaped forward like a horse freed from its reins. The sudden acceleration pushed the crew back into their seats. The finish line was now visible ahead, a shimmering curtain of light. The Axiom was just in front of them, its crystal structure gleaming. We're gaining, Kevin shouted. It's going to be close. The Pioneer shot forward with incredible speed. Without the Meyer-Rodriguez field to protect them, the ship shook hard. Warning lights flashed across every control panel. Hull temperature rising, Maya reported from her station. The engines are running hotter than they ever have before. Greg worked frantically at his controls. I'm redirecting coolant. We just need to hold together for 2 more minutes. The Axiom was still ahead, but the gap was closing. The beautiful crystal ship seemed to sense the danger. It too increased speed, its light patterns changing to show it was using emergency power. They're worried, Linda said with a smile. They never expected to be racing us for real. The observation area had fallen completely silent. Hundreds of alien diplomats and officials stood frozen, watching the screens. No one had predicted this outcome. A primitive human ship was about to overtake the most advanced vessel in the galaxy. Ambassador Carol could no longer hide her smile. Next to her, the insect-like alien Xroltic clicked its mandibles nervously. Your species is full of surprises. Xroltic, we may have misjudged you. On the Pioneer, things were getting dangerous. Without the protective field, cosmic radiation hit the ship directly. The temperature continued to rise. 1 minute to the finish line, Kevin announced, gripping his chair tightly as the ship shuddered. We're gaining on the Axiom, Sammy said, but I'm not sure we'll catch them in time. Linda leaned forward in her captain's chair. Greg, what if we vented some hydrogen from the storage tanks? Could we get a boost from that? Greg's eyes widened, like a rocket. That's incredibly primitive. Then he grinned. They'd never expect it. Yes, that could work. Do it, Linda ordered. Greg quickly reprogrammed the ship's systems. The hydrogen they had collected from the nebula was meant for fuel, but now it would serve another purpose. Ready to vent on your mark, Captain, Greg reported. Linda watched as they closed in on the Axiom. They were almost side by side now, but the finish line was coming up fast. It would be very close. Wait for it, Linda said, her eyes fixed on the distance markers. Wait. Now. Greg hit the controls. Hydrogen vented from the rear of the ship in a controlled explosion. The Pioneer lurched forward with a final burst of speed. The crew was pushed back into their chairs. The ship's metal frame groaned under the strain. Warning alarms blared even louder. Power systems overloading, Maya shouted. We can't sustain this. We don't need to, Linda replied, her eyes fixed on the view screen. Just a few more seconds. The Pioneer pulled alongside the Axiom. For a moment, the two ships were exactly even. The alien captain of the crystal ship appeared on their communication screen, his crystalline face showing an emotion that might have been shock. Then, with a final surge, the Pioneer inched ahead. Human determination and ingenuity pushed the ship forward, just as the finish line approached. The Pioneer crossed the line, a mere ship's length ahead of the Axiom. The human vessel had won by less than a second. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then the Pioneer's bridge erupted in cheers. Sammy jumped from her seat, pulling Kevin into a hug. Judy punched the air in victory. Even Greg, normally so calm, let out a whoop of joy. Linda sat back in her chair, a wide smile on her face. Engine status. Maya looked at her readings. Critical. We need to shut down in the next 30 seconds or risk explosion. Worth it, Greg said, already working to safely power down the overloaded systems. In the observation area, the silence had turned to chaos. Some aliens demanded the race be nullified. Others argued over the rulebook. A few simply stared in amazement at what they had witnessed. Ambassador Carol received an official message from Race Control. She read it and turned to address the aliens around her. The race officials have confirmed, she announced. The U.S. Pioneer is the official winner of the Void Sprint. Back on the ship, Linda opened a channel to the entire crew. This is your captain speaking. Against all odds, against all expectations, we have just won the most prestigious race in the galaxy, Earth's first victory among the stars. She paused, letting her words sink in. This isn't just a win for our crew or our ship. This is a win for humanity. We proved today that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. That human ingenuity can overcome any challenge. As the engines cooled down, the Pioneer drifted past the finish line. Emergency systems came back online. The immediate danger was over. What happens now? Sammy asked. Linda looked out at the stars, a new respect for humanity spreading across the galaxy. Now, she said, everything changes. The award ceremony took place 3 days after the race. The main hall of the Confederation space station was filled with aliens from all 17 species. At the center stood the crew of the Pioneer, in their best uniforms. Captain Linda Ramirez stepped forward as her name was called. The Confederation's High Speaker, a tall blue alien with 6 arms, held the Void Sprint trophy. It was a beautiful crystal that seemed to contain a small galaxy inside. On behalf of the Galactic Confederation, the High Speaker said, I present this trophy to the humans of Earth. Your victory was unexpected. Linda accepted the trophy with a smile. Thank you. We humans are often unexpected. The hall was quiet. None of the aliens quite knew how to react. They had invited humans to the race as a joke, expecting to see primitives fail. Instead, humans had won. Linda turned to address the crowd. We knew we couldn't beat you with your own technology, so we did what humans do best. We found another way. After the ceremony, aliens surrounded the human crew with questions. The captain of the Axiom, the crystal ship that came in second, approached Greg. We detected no advanced technology on your vessel, the crystal captain said. How did you navigate the warp gates without quantum folding? Greg smiled. We didn't. We created a field that simplified the physics around our ship instead of trying to manipulate space-time like you do. That's primitive, the alien said, but its tone was respectful now. Sometimes old solutions work better than new ones, Greg replied. You've forgotten approaches you abandoned centuries ago. We haven't. All across the station, similar conversations took place. Aliens who had laughed at humans now wanted to learn from them. The Pioneer crew explained their methods openly, showing how they had used the racecourse itself as fuel and energy. Ambassador Carol met with the Confederation Council, the leaders of the 17 alien species. They had called an emergency meeting after the race. We wish to formally apologize, the High Speaker said. We invited Earth to the race to showcase the gap between our civilizations. We were wrong. No apology needed, Carol replied. We welcome the opportunity to prove ourselves. The Confederation wishes to offer Earth full membership now, not the provisional status you currently hold. Carol smiled. Earth will be honored to accept. Back on the Pioneer, the crew prepared for their journey home. The ship needed serious repairs after pushing its systems beyond their limits. Several alien engineers had offered to help, eager to study human ingenuity up close. Linda found Sammy in the observation lounge, looking out at the stars. Thinking about home? Linda asked. Sammy nodded. And about what comes next? Everything will change now, won't it? Yes, Linda agreed. The aliens see us differently. We've earned their respect. And what about us? How do we see ourselves? Linda considered this. I think we've learned something important too. We don't need to copy alien technology to find our place among the stars. We can find our own path. Word of the Pioneers' victory had already reached Earth. When they returned, they would be heroes. But more importantly, they had opened doors for all humanity. In the weeks that followed, ships from across the Confederation arrived at Earth. Not to mock humans, but to learn from them. The aliens had discovered what humans had always known, that innovation comes in many forms, and sometimes the simplest solution is the most elegant. Greg found himself surrounded by alien engineers eager to understand his primitive designs. He enjoyed showing them how the Meyer-Rodriguez field worked, named after two junior engineers who had suggested the basic concept. The field doesn't manipulate reality like your technology, he explained to a group of fascinated aliens. It simplifies it instead. Sometimes you don't need to solve a complex equation if you can change the equation itself. As Earth prepared to take its place as a full member of the Galactic Confederation, the U.S. Pioneer stood in a place of honor in Earth's orbit. What had started as a joke at humanity's expense had become humanity's greatest triumph. The ship that aliens had called primitive had taught them all an important lesson. True advancement comes not from having the most complex technology, but from finding the best solution to the problem at hand. And humans, it turned out, were very good at finding solutions that no one else had considered. Our greatest strength isn't our technology, Linda told a class of new space cadets months later. It's our creativity, our ability to look at a problem differently. Remember that, and there's no challenge you can't overcome. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, alien engineers were beginning to redesign their ships, incorporating primitive human ideas that they had overlooked for centuries. A new era of cooperation and mutual respect had begun, and it had all started with a race that humans were never supposed to win.